very blessed Merry Christmas to each of you as we gather around this time of year to worship the Christ child born among us. I want to talk about Christmas snows, and I don't mean that white stuff that gathers around the ground in Canada this time of year. I mean Christmas nose, like right on the nose. I've always thought that the sense of smell is more intimate than the other senses. For in smelling something, it's like we actually become a part of that substance. In detecting a smell, we absorb the essence. And this can play out really poorly, of course. If you ever walk by a ripe dumpster, you know what I mean. You kind of absorb that smell. But it also plays out conversely in a really beautiful way. And I want you to remember to go back in time and remember the smells of Christmas. Now, for many of us, like myself, we have to go back a few years to remember those smells. But as I was thinking about the smells of Christmas, the smells that I most remember, and probably you do as well, are the smells of the cookies baking in the oven. You know, those cutout cookies that your mom always baked. Or the pecan pie, the mincemeat pie. They each had their beautiful aroma. Or the scent of the fresh pine tree, the Christmas tree, as you would bring it indoors. And you know, you'd get a whiff of that smell every time you walked by the Christmas tree. Or even the smell of socks and gloves drying on the furnace vent after you came in playing in the snow with your cousins. Peppermint. Remember the candy canes that we always got as kids, and the smell of those candied citrus rinds. My grandmother always made these candied citrus rinds out of lemon peel and orange peel, and it seems like the adults only had the taste for those things. Or the scent of logs as your dad would put them on the fire in the fireplace and they'd crackle, especially an oak log, the way it would smell when it burnt. Those are the great smells of Christmas, and I'm sure you have your own. But this Christmas is much different, isn't it? We are gathering, if at all, via Zoom or Skype. And Zoom and Skype don't have any smell. I mean, you can see and talk, but you can't touch and smell Christmas. You can't linger in that essence of Christmas. But just because this year may be simpler, maybe just you and another person, I want you to remember how simple the first Christmas was. And the smells, oh my gosh, think of the first Christmas and the smells in a barnyard. Well, to quote The Grinch Who Stole Christmas from Dr. Seuss' book, Christmas stinks. It certainly did that first Christmas. It smelled of barnyard hay and wet and damp animals. It smelled of wet, smelly sheep and donkeys, of urine and dung. And having a baby in a stable is a messy business. Mary didn't have any nightgown she could change into. And though we like to picture her with blue and white flowing immaculate robes, I'm sure they were dirty and stained from childbirth. And the shepherds who came and visited, well, they hadn't had a shower for months tending their sheep in the fields. Wow, they must have smelt when they approached the little baby. Why would God want to be born in such a smelly, stinking place? I think because he wanted to enter into the human condition as it is. He was born among the lowly and the poor so he could exalt the lowly and the poor. He was born among shepherds and sheep so he could become the good shepherd for all of mankind. And God becoming one of us reminds me of the stink of sin. It stinks that we live in a world where war continues to take innocent lives. It stinks where refugees have to flee their homes and families and livelihoods to find safe harbor somewhere. It stinks that there are children who will go to bed tonight hungry in a world that has more than enough food to feed everyone on the planet. It stinks that we live in a world where our children are no longer safe from predators who would rob them of their innocence. It stinks that in the next 12 months there will be over 40 million abortions. It stinks that over the next 12 months it's projected that substance abuse and addictive behaviors will have over a $60 billion impact on our economy, not to mention the destruction to families, the loss of jobs, the failures in school, the domestic violence, and child abuse. It stinks, I tell you. But Christmas reminds me that God is still with us and that he seeks to be born in us to transform the darkness and the dankness and the smelliness of this broken world. Yes, we live in stinky places, and the world is a stinky place. But if we will take the time to get out of our comfortable worlds, our anesthetized worlds, we just might discover that God is there because Christmas reminds us that God is born in the stinky places of the world to bring life and light and love. What an image. What a beautiful image. Beautiful because we know that it was God coming into our world full of sin. It was God taking on human flesh full of sin. It was God coming to show us what he looks like. And when God showed up, well, he showed up in the smelliest, lowliest place on earth. And it was the most beautifully rancid place on earth. And it changed the world. The presence of Jesus transformed the dank and the dark and the smelly confines of a stable into a place of light and life and love. That's what Christmas did. And that's what Christmas continues to do. And as Christ is born in us, we can bring that sweet aroma of his presence into those terribly smelly places of the world. It's certainly not in the way the Grinch meant, but yes, Christmas stinks. But isn't it beautiful? Isn't it sweet? Isn't it good? Very blessed Christmas to each one of you.